What's going on? It's Roger. I just want to give a rant about documentation. Um, Whenever I picked up an older vehicle, I usually never got any documentation. Maybe a more recent receipt of oil change or starter or something like that, but never anything comprehensive. So when I bought the Previa, I didn't expect to find a lot of documentation. I just thought, hey, you know what? I'm picking up a van with a blown head gasket, which was the intention, so I can rebuild it. And then the people that I got it from, they handed me this whole folder full of this is what the previous owner did, and there's a little bit of what the previous owner before that guy did, which was amazing to me because I was like, wow, oh, this is a chance for me to see what he did. And I'm glad this guy was meticulous about it because, when he picked up the vehicle, here's a couple of things that he spent money on. Obviously the front coil and springs. He had a check engine light, had that evaluated. He spent quite a few bucks on a lot of things. Replaced U-joints, put a new battery, wiper linkage. He also, this was a TSB, I believe, AC expansion valve. Look at that. He paid $523, and he did the regular smog and oil change, and he kept all the receipts. What's amazing too about this is that, like I said, when you get a van that has, or if you get a vehicle that has, you don't know what's been touched on it, what's been going on with it. This kind of gives you the idea. Like, for instance, this talks about a recommendation. This is in 2013. I bought my van in 2014. Talked about the recommendations was for the SADs, which is the accessory drive shaft couplers. Say that, hey, they're getting weak. $700 for parts, which is kind of up there, but at the time it probably is that kind of high price to do because it's a very tough job. But when I picked up my van, I knew not only did I have to replace the head gasket, but I had to change the flex couplers for that drive shaft. And it's what's also amazing is that when you go on forums, older vehicles, you can find out very common problems. And so when I go through this documentation, some of the problems that the Previas have, for instance, like a high idle or maybe there's overheating issues or whatnot that are commonplace, and people have solved them on Previas. And if you look here and it's like, oh, he never changed it. When was the last time they changed the water pump? At least this previous owner didn't. And here's another list from the previous owner before this guy did. And here, he did oil change, the 4,500,000 mile service to 7,500,000 mile service, 90,000 mile service, 120,000 mile service plus brakes plus belts. Changed the front windshield. He did it, the mileage and when and how much it cost, even including how much he bought the vehicle for. But there is no real documentation like the previous owner did, where he actually had the receipts of everything that he did, which was smart. And it also made my job easier when I picked up the van. Like, okay, he changed the expansion valve, but he didn't change the SADS couplers. I need to do that. So, adding on to that pile, everything I got for the rebuilt motor, the brake and lamp inspection, all the parts that I bought, rebuilt for the transmission. And I don't think I'm ever gonna, my intentions when I buy a vehicle is to keep it. So I don't know if I'll ever give up this van. You never say never, because I've had to get rid of my previous cars that I love. But it's amazing to me that getting an older car and having a lot of documentation, you can figure out what you need to do. And like I said before I went off is that blown head gasket on the Previa. It was at 245,000 miles. Very high mileage. I almost expect it. And then you always think like, okay, well, blown head gasket, high mileage, so cooling issues, and there was no documentation from this previous owner or before him about changing the water pump, or changing the alternator, or changing the fuel filter, or changing the supercharger oil. So these are the things that after going through it, and I was like, okay, this is the stuff that I need to do. And if you see in my previous video, that's what I did. I did the supercharger oil. And if you understand that Toyota doesn't have a maintenance schedule for the superchargers, so people that have supercharged Previas don't check on it, and even at the dealership, I guess they don't check on it either, and those things just get blown out. And even when I did mine, like I said, there's no documentation of the supercharger being touched, so I know I had to do it somewhere down the line, and I'm glad I did it because the fluid was low and it smelled burnt. So I'm glad that I went through that. But like I said, it gave me an opportunity to figure out what I need to do as far as like, okay, I want this van to be reliable and brand new for my family, or as new as possible. So that gave me an opportunity. Like, he never touched this, so I'm gonna buy that stuff. I'm gonna make sure I get that stuff taken care of. So that's what I did with the motors. Complete rebuild, and the cooling system, run through the whole cooling system, new radiator, new everything. And then of course, like I said, there's other services that these vehicles, older vehicles, should be looked at. It's a 20-year-old van. It's a 95, 20-year-old van. Stuff is gonna break down. Stuff does need to be replaced, and so that goes with hoses. I changed a lot of major hoses, but now I'm starting to change a lot of the smaller hoses too. Like I said, one of the issues too, when you do get like an older vehicle, you can find these common issues on forums. And one of them that I found was that, there's a high idle, this has to do with the idle air control valve. And I remember you hear about that. I wasn't having that issue, but when I looked at it, the previous owner hasn't really touched it. So I always have this mentality like, okay, I'm not having this issue, but let me open it up and see. And I did that in one of the other videos as well, and it's for the carbon flake filter install. But if it's never been touched and there's no documentation of it being touched, then it's probably in your best interest to look into it. I mean, this is one of the mentalities I have, is I have more preventative maintenance bias, I guess you can say, compared to if it ain't broke, then don't fix it. I think that's the wrong mentality to have when you have an older vehicle. And I was just looking at what the previous owner did, and this is just my typed up quick type up of what he did. I didn't put his 2013, which I just realized, but I typed in his stuff for most of it, and it seemed like he was going to the shop in 2008 4 times, 2009 5 times, 2010 looks like several times, 2011 several times. So he kept going back, and if you see like the difference in months, it seems like every few months. Obviously more towards the summer, but it's one of those things that I don't want to be like him, like fix something small and then not address any other issues, and then come back the next month, hey, there's something wrong with this, then come back the next month. No, I want to have things taken care of, and for me to enjoy the vehicle. But like I said, this has to take that mentality of take care of things if it's never been taken care of. So it's more about preventative maintenance than anything. Anyways, this is my little rant on documentation. I guess that will be it for now. Took longer to explain everything, but I think I got my point across. There.